Ella, welcome to the
Thank
Material
you.
Talk podcast. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm really excited to get to know you a bit more and about what you do. As you must know, Material Talk has a strong focus on sustainability, specifically in the fashion and textiles industry, and you have a job that's very much aligned to my mission, the magazine's mission. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you based and what do you do?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be on Material Talk. A bit about myself. So I'm Ella. I'm a sustainability consultant and I'm based in the UK. I'm specifically in the Cotswolds, but I've spent the last 5 years in London. So I've known the fashion scene within London. What's led me to here is I studied psychology of fashion and then worked in a couple jobs in the fashion industry and have now gone freelance in consulting to kind of get more reach in with different brands.
That's quite a big leap. I say
Mm-hmm.
that a lot to founders. I myself am sort of in a similar position, made the jump from working for a company and now doing my own thing. What have you found so far? How's it been in this transition from, going probably from a very structured 9 to 5? Maybe you still have structure, but what's it been like to kind of go out on your own and what have you brought from your past into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of roles that have been very different ends of the spectrum. So one of my first roles was in a circular platform and a startup company. And then my second role was in a big fashion brand in a fast fashion kind of retailer brand. So those two perspectives have really funneled into my new position, and the transition from that has meant that I've had different levels of experience and experience in different areas of sustainable fashion.
Mm.
So opening myself up to consulting has actually meant that there has been so many different opportunities I didn't really see coming. I think kind of every day is different on who you're talking to, what brands might be interested in, and what kind of area of sustainability they might be interested in. Because I've got different experience, but actually sustainability in fashion is huge and
Mm-hmm.
so multifaceted, and there might be people that are interested in the circular elements or the sustainable materials or even their green claims or their storytelling. So there's so many different angles, and I think that's one of the biggest things coming out as freelance and opening myself up to opportunities is really realizing how many different opportunities there are and just
Mm.
how everyone is at a different stage in their sustainability journey and that we can support in any area along the way.
Yeah, that's so true. Sustainability really is so broad. It's
Mm-hmm.
got so many different areas. Which one do you like to focus on? Maybe there's not a favorite that you have. So that's my first question. I always do this, ask too many questions, and have a particular area that you like.
Sure. So my favorite kind of area that I like to work on and work with brands on is green claims and transparency.
Okay.
So a big buzz in the industry is the regulations that are coming in, particularly in the EU and the UK. And I mean, even with the tariffs and things, there's always new regulations that we're discussing. And I think one thing that I enjoy and that brands also need support in is ensuring that they stay compliant. So it's a bit of a risk factor for smaller brands to be making claims on their sustainability, saying that they're using more recycled materials, organic materials, but actually lacking the evidence to back that up. And what I saw working in a big retailer is that we had a network and a lot of support for that area.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew what we were doing, and there were people out there trying to make sure that we were doing the right thing and support us. But for a smaller brand or brands that don't have that industry access at that point, they don't or might not necessarily be able to understand those regulations. So for
Yeah.
me, it was really important to kind of be a gateway to that information and provide support where they might not have it themselves.
Mm.
And I think leading through with that, we've got a regulation coming in that we think is coming in is the digital product passport, which
Yeah.
ties it a lot to sustainable tech and sustainable technologies that we were just discussing. And I think that brands will need support with that, with their supply chain mapping and with their green claims and just getting themselves ready to be in a position to keep up with the industry and the changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a huge thing, and I'd like to actually talk about that a bit more in a second.
Sure.
I'm curious, have you managed to find clients already? Was it sort of like a situation where people were knocking at your door, or did you have to really put yourself out there and pitch yourself, or how's it been? This ties into my question of how do you think the fashion industry is going? Do you have hope? But yeah, first of all, have you found some good clients easily? And then after that, how does this speak to where you think the industry is going?
Yeah, so I think a little bit of both. I've been doing outreach to brands that I thought that I could be helpful to, but I have also had people come through to me just via LinkedIn or seeing, the things that I post online and my experience, and they've come from different angles, different levels of their sustainability journey. There's some that I work with that are really just getting started, and there's some that were sustainable from the beginning but just want a refresh of where to go next. So I think it's definitely very important to put yourself out there and make connections, but also just being open to having anyone come through your door that might need your help.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Do you think that brands are taking sustainability seriously? There is evidence that they are, based on just speaking to you today and what you're doing. But in your opinion, what you've seen in your previous job and now, do you have a positive outlook, or is there any negativity? Because sometimes I get worried when I do my research and it seems the stats are going one way, but then, I have conversations with people like you, and brands are looking to really change. So what do you think?
I mean, it's such an interesting debate that we always talk about in the fashion space and sustainable space. I think from my perspective, I'm optimistic. I have seen with both brands that I've worked in internally that sustainability is something that we're talking about, even in brands that weren't started as sustainable and are now needing to make that change. And working in those brands, I have seen that everyone is now aware. Everyone might be a bit bold, but most brands are very aware of what they need to be doing. I think compliance has driven it quite a bit, and people calling them out and saying you need to do something. There is so much technology that's ongoing in the industry. People are always creating new platforms to make sustainability data easier to digest, easier to make action from. So I feel really hopeful from that experience that there is stuff that's going on that will make a change. I think the challenge is just the speed of that. We're seeing change, but it's taking a long time. But little change is better than no change. And I think, we can't expect change to happen overnight as much as we want it to, because fashion and the fashion industry has been so impactful for so many people, and so many jobs and livelihoods are reliant on it, that we can't just suddenly switch it off, change it. We have to really focus on getting it right and rooted in the data that we're seeing. So I think I'm optimistic that change is happening. And yeah, it's just watching this space, I think.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's just gradual, and sometimes the bigger figures can be scary. But if you look at the incremental things that are happening, there is somewhat of an upward trajectory. There are people who are coming into the fashion workforce now, kind of like yourself and myself, and they've got this changed attitude, which I think is really good. Just a matter of who's entering the fashion industry, who's graduating, what are they learning, all of that. I had a question about digital product passports, DPPs. Do you know much about them? I had a great podcast interview with the founder of Parcel, who actually has a fashion tech company where she's trying to help brands digitize all of their data super early on and make it super easy for them to onboard, or should I say, make the on-ramp smoother, shorter, easier.
Yeah.
So
what transition.
What do you know about DPPs? Is it going to be very difficult for brands to implement them?
They can be confusing. I mean, the regulation's coming up, and we are trying to get ourselves ready to be able to produce these digital product passports. I think from my understanding of what we are going to need to have on these passports, we're going to need to have supply chain information at a baseline level that will need to be there. So consumers will need to be able to see the different tiers and the tier levels that a garment was created from, and I hoping that it'll be specific location wise and traceable right down to the fibre. So that's definitely something that brands should be looking at, or if not, need to start looking at now to get that data for their products so that that information can go straight onto the digital product passport. Yeah. So I think that's a good baseline. I also think the material knowledge will need to be listed. I think a lot of brands already do list their materials now. Whether that be, you know, the percentage or just like a ballpark area, but that will need to be really specific. Also, if they're using more sustainable materials, that will need to be on there. So if they're using a recycled polyester, for example, they'll need to state that, and they'll need to state the certification of that. I think that's a really key part that brands need to be working towards now if they haven't already figured that out and haven't already got the structure in place to keep that record. We'll need to see, you know, this was RCS certified or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I'd say that those are the key parts from the beginning of the life cycle of the garment. And then I'm hoping that we'll start to see some more information on how we can care for the garment at the end of its life. So whether it needs repairing or how you might recycle it, how we might dispose of it if that's how it needs to be. That's my understanding of where we're at with digital product passports and the kind of information that we're looking to see. Hopefully all on the website and in a lovely QR code on the garments so that it's really accessible for customers.
Yeah, I wonder if it's easier for bigger brands. Like you said, there's a lot of infrastructure in place. But then again, you know, the further it gets down the line, I think it does become difficult because you have a lot of production happening in other countries. So, but then at the same time, smaller brands, maybe they have a tighter grip on how things are doing, but they really don't have, I don't know, they don't have maybe all the support that they need to really keep everything granular. So I don't think it's something easy. And I don't think sustainability is an easy thing at all. It's super necessary, as we know, but it's a tricky one. And that's why I'm glad that people like you exist, because it's certainly something that the industry needs. But it's just like, how do we get there? How do we make sure that compliance is met at the same time balancing, obviously, margins and all the rest?
Yeah, it's definitely a complex structure and not simple, which is why I think it's really overwhelming for brands to get started. But the key is to just find somewhere to start and just keep going. Yeah,
no, absolutely. What advice would you give to maybe, first of all, a brand looking, well, actually, you just gave your advice, is to start. So just, you know, start somewhere. Maybe I can ask you for your advice for somebody who is like you, looking to do some good, looking to do some maybe sustainability focused work or the like, or even just entering into the fashion industry. You've had quite an interesting career already and you're still very young. I'm wondering what you would say to somebody who's like you, entering into the 2025 job market.
Yes, yeah, I think first of all, good luck. It's tricky out there. It's definitely daunting to be in the job market, as we know, in this day and age. I think that the key would be to do your own research, get yourself educated on what area you might want to have a look at, and really use the resources out there. I think LinkedIn's great. Substack is also great for finding new information. I've seen such a rise of conversations on there in sustainable fashion.
It's true.
I think, yeah, there is just a big network available, which has been really, really valuable for myself, and it's how we've met Emma. And I think that for anyone looking to be in the industry, I think just to kind of get yourself in that way, it's not people that want to talk about it. I think if you've got a real passion, people are always open for conversations and happy to discuss it. So I think that would be one key thing to do. But I also think it's really important to stay open, because there might be opportunities that you didn't really know existed, and I think they're still being formulated at this point. Sustainability is still niche, it's still new, and brands big and small will have roles that might look different in every single team. So I think keep yourself open to different opportunities, and you never know where each one might lead itself to. So yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot in this space, but certainly it's developing. So keep hopeful and just keep going and keep up with them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think it's a young space. So maybe even if you've studied something quite different, I mean, I myself studied law, which helped because I'm not really afraid of reading, you know, each word of a regulation.
Yes.
So even if you've studied something completely different, because the space is growing and changing, maybe you can still get your skills, I don't know, into, or you can pitch yourself from where you've come from. So even if you've studied something completely different, but you do want to enter the fashion industry as a sustainability consultant or something like that, use what you've got. So I think that's really great advice. Thank you, Ella. I really hope that somebody watches this and gets something really valuable. I think that they will. So it's been so lovely to have you on the show. I like just to keep it short, bite-sized. You can listen to it
Yeah.
on your commute, or just before you go to bed or whatever.
Yeah.
So I hope that's okay with you. But it's been such a pleasure having you here, and
Completely.
I think people should definitely follow you if you have Instagram, Substack. I'll put your links down
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're one to watch, I'd say.
Thank you. Yeah, and same for yourself.
Thank you.